really crazy what has happened.
I think that is likely what will play out. We obviously have a lot to learn in the coming hours and the coming days, but that makes sense. And also, when you look at President Trump, former President Trump put his hand to his ear and hear that sound, it sounds like it was a while getting to him. So that also will tell you that it was beyond the security perimeter. And that is a big area, a wide open area. People could probably stand quite far away from there. And of course, we know there are long weapons out there.
And as we've been hearing from law enforcement tonight, they are treating this as a potential assassination attempt. Again, trying to get more information, but that's how they're treating it right now until they get those extra details. Let's bring in our chief White House correspondent, Mary Bruce. And I understand that you now have a response specifically from President Biden.
The president went in there with a statement, and he knows, of course, that he has been briefed on this. He is watching this unfold from his beach house in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. And the president says in this statement, I'm going to read it to you. He says, quote, "I'm grateful to hear that he's safe and doing well. I'm praying for him and his family and for all those who are at the rally as we await further information." The president goes on to say, "Jill and I are grateful to the Secret Service for getting him to safety," adding, "There's no place for this kind of violence in America. We must unite as one nation to condemn it." Of course, when we know this moment comes at a point in our nation's history when political rhetoric in this country is extremely divisive, and we are already seeing this incident being politicized. Some Republicans pointing a finger at the president, already arguing, of course, baselessly that President Biden is about to blame for this, noting, of course, that President Biden has put at the center of this campaign the argument that Trump is a danger to democracy. But tonight, the statement from the president just now, of course, grateful that Donald Trump is safe and doing well, praying for him, and thankful, of course, for the Secret Service for getting him to safety with.
All right, that statement from President Biden. Mary Bruce, thank you. I want to go back to John Santucci, our executive editorial producer. John, you've been in touch with Trump's family.
Eldest son of the former president. He tells ABC News when he has spoken to his father in just the last couple of moments, describes former President Trump as being in good spirits. He is still at the hospital, according to his son, and he told me with his father, he's, quote, "never gonna stop." Now, obviously, this is the first time we've heard of the family being in touch with the former president, and as we've been reporting here on ABC with you for much of the last few hours, we know that many of the family was not with Donald Trump at this rally. Of course, some of them getting ready for the Republican convention starting Monday out in Milwaukee. Donald Trump Jr., of course, a frequent presence by his father's side, probably the most politically active of the Trump children in this state of affairs. Of course, his daughter Zabotka has now been on the trail. She was someone that went to the White House when Donald Trump took the presidency in 2017. But Donald Trump Jr. has been that fixture in Republican politics by his father's side, a very active fundraiser for his father, and of course someone that at a rally like this would have normally been there, if not speaking with alongside his father. So of course my understanding is that immediately the family has been trying to reach him, and now they have indeed made contact with their father, who again, just to reiterate, ABC News has learned is, quote, in good spirits, according to the former president's eldest son.
And John, forgive me if I didn't hear you earlier, talking about the former president being in good spirits and he's doing fine. Are we getting any word yet on whether he was injured in any way in this incident?
So I asked Donald Trump Jr. His understanding when I spoke to him on the phone of what happened. He said it remains unclear. Even the former president was not clear on exactly what happened. Donald Trump Jr. and his siblings, I'm told from other sources, I've not asked Donald Trump Jr. but I know from multiple other sources, have been in touch with the Secret Service trying to get updates themselves as to what has happened. But as our team, I know we spoke to Aaron Katersky and others, and Josh Margolis here at ABC News, it's an active investigation, still trying to understand what happened. Well, one thing Donald Trump Jr. did say to me when we were on the phone was that his father made a remark that there was a lot of blood. But again, not something from my understanding of the conversation I had with the former president's eldest the sun, not something that was tightened along, if you will, right? That we reported a statement that came out from the Trump campaign that he was, quote, fine. When I had that conversation with Donald Trump Jr., which seemed to emphasize that things are okay, remaining under observation, a situation still unfolding as to what happened, but nevertheless, the former president okay, and again, according to his son, went in good spirits.
John Santucci, our executive editorial producer, with word from the Trump family tonight. We are just coming up at the top of the hour. It is 8 p.m. in the East, 5 p.m.
D1
in
is
the
in
West.
here.
If you're just
What's
joining
going
us
on,
right
Mr.
now,
D1?
as if this
Have a good
campaign
day.
couldn't get
Good to
more
see you again.
historic and unprecedented. What law enforcement officials
Yeah,
are now
that's right.
investigating as
Mera.
a possible assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump. That is the
Horrible.
moment you see in the video right there. All this playing out in Butler, Pennsylvania. This was a major campaign event that Donald Trump was hosting before the Republican National Convention was set to take place in Milwaukee this week. All eyes were on this rally as there was word that a potential running mate pick would be made within the next 48 hours or so, and many people were watching this to see if the former president would hint as to who he was going to pick. And instead, several minutes into the rally, multiple reports of shots fired, what witnesses described as popping sounds, and then you saw the former president right there ducking down, diving behind the podium. And then Secret Service rushing towards the former president, jumping on him and forming sort of a human shield as other law enforcement officers jump on the stage. You see them there with the long guns and the tactical gear looking into the crowd. And then these remarkable images coming in. The former president with what appears to be blood dripping from his right ear being escorted off the stage. There was also a moment there with the former president pumping his fist as the crowd started cheering when they saw that he was okay. The president then escorted into his motorcade, taken off to a nearby medical facility. Reports from the Trump campaign and the Trump family telling us that the former president is doing fine, that he's okay, that he's receiving medical treatment. Whether or not he was injured in any way beyond what we can see in this video. The DA in Butler County there, Pennsylvania, telling ABC News that the shooter is dead. Also telling us that at least one bystander was killed and perhaps another. Witnesses that we've heard from tonight talking about blood in the stands behind the former president and people being carried away. It's unclear exactly what happened. We're still waiting on multiple sources from law enforcement to tell us, whether the threat is over. That's unclear. But again, the source information that we're getting right now is that law enforcement is treating this as a potential assassination attempt against the former president until they get information that it wasn't. Let's go back to Rachel Scott, who's our senior congressional correspondent, also has been covering the campaign for us. Rachel was inside the arena during this event, and while we were on the air for World News, and it was minutes later when she heard those shots ring out. Rachel, you've now been escorted outside. You've been with us the entire evening. What are sources telling you now?
Yeah, this is the scene that's happening right now. We were escorted outside of the Trump rally. We are still not far from where those shots rang out inside. I just want to show you right here. There's been so much conversation about the security. These white tents right here. This is where Trump supporters were screened by Secret Service. This is typical at a Trump rally, standard with events with the former president. You go through magnetometers, you go through metal detectors, your bags are then searched. There are certain items like large bags that are prohibited from being entered into this facility, and then you are screened when you go inside of these rallies. Off into the distance there, this is the area that is now an active crime scene. We were inside the moment that this happened. We were on air with you live for World News Tonight. Then the former president took the stage. Within several minutes of the former president being on the stage, we heard these popping noises, one right after another, after another, after another. And then there were those screams. We heard screams from the crowd, people yelling, people shouting to get down, people shouting gunfire, gunfire, cover. We, along with other Trump supporters, then ducked for cover. We took off going below the riser. We covered ourselves, covered our heads. We watched as Trump supporters tilted out of their chairs, covered themselves as well, shielded themselves. We talked to a number of Trump supporters, one telling me all she could do was just close her eyes and pray. She just said she was praying and praying, hoping that everything would be okay. Those screams went on what felt like for several minutes. I know it was just only a matter of seconds, but it really encapsulates just sort of the frantic terror and the chaos that people were feeling in that moment, confused about for sure. Then within just a few moments after that, we saw that image, and we were there live. We witnessed it along with the former president's supporters who were in the crowd. The former president, who was protected and shielded by Secret Service agents, who was knocked to the ground. They protected him. He then rose up. We saw him put his fist up in the air. The crowd then cheered. Many people telling me they were relieved to see that the former president was okay. He was then escorted into his own vehicle, and he was taken away immediately. Meanwhile, our eyes then went over to the bleachers. As you know, during these Trump rallies, the former president loves a crowd. He has his supporters all around him. He wants these to feel as intimate as possible, even though there are hundreds and hundreds of people there. So off over to the bleachers, what we then noticed were Secret Service agents and law enforcement officials. They were swarming what appeared to be one or possibly two individuals. And that is when all of us just sort of remained in that area. Law enforcement officials were telling everyone to still stay down to make sure they could get the situation under control. After several more moments, we did see law enforcement officials and Secret Service agents then take one individual away. I did notice that there was blood on the bleachers on that side, on that area. And then that was the moment where people started to clear out of that area. We saw law enforcement officials come out with crime tape. They started taping off the area. We continue to be live with you on the air, reporting what we saw and what we were learning in the moment. And then we saw Trump supporters start to file out one by one. Those crowds are very packed, and so many times you're not able to get cell phone reception because there are just so many people there. So this area right here started becoming a gathering place for a lot of Trump supporters, a place where they were calling their families, letting them know that they were okay, a place afterwards where people were checking on each other, trying to make sure that people were okay. And I want to bring in right now one person who was inside of this rally. Sir, you were inside.
Yes.
Where were you seated, and what did you hear?
We were seated right in the front there, a little bit to the left, about 6-7 rows back, and we were just standing up, listening to Trump talk there, and we just heard like a bullet, and you just seen him like swipe his ear there, you know, and then next thing you know, you heard other bullets, and he fell. Then there was like probably like 3 or more shots, you know, and then you just seen the crowd like just look over at the bleachers there, you know, and then it just got crazy there. I mean, it was so scary, you know, and I feel for all the innocent bystanders that, because there was some people that got hurt, innocent bystanders there, and we're just praying for them, make sure they're all right, and that, you know, and pray for Trump.
What was your initial reaction when you heard those popping sounds? We were inside as well. It was one right after another.
It sounded like someone set fire, you know, like firecrackers off, you know, like boom, 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 you know, and then, you know, you realize something's going on here, you know, and then everybody just like hit the deck, and it was pretty scary, you know, and there must have been a shooter on the outside of the perimeter, you know, and he must have been shooting inside and hit some innocent bystanders. Because there was a big crane there with speakers, and there was a line there, and the bullet got hit. You know, the line got hit, and you could see all the fluid go out of the hydraulic line.
So we know there's so many unconfirmed reports. We know law enforcement is still working. This is an active investigation right now. How are you feeling? This has been a very chaotic 24 hours.
In a scary time, though, you know, this world, you know, we definitely need more police, you know, to patrol everything, you know, and hopefully we'll get that with Trump coming in here. You know, so everyone should get out there and vote for him, you know.
And your reaction when you saw the former president after he was shielded by Secret Service agents? We did see him pop up. Yeah. He raised his fist. I heard the crowd cheering for him.
Yeah, he was looking for his shoes. He's like, where's my shoes? But hopefully he'll be all right, though. I think he's strong, and he'll come back and be ready for November.
Well, thank you so much for your time. You know, I've been to almost every single campaign rally this election cycle, and this is typically an area right before the campaign rally starts. There are lines with Trump supporters, hundreds of people lining up, waiting to get checked in. Secret Service screening them one by one as they enter in. There's always a sense of sort of joy and excitement from the former president's supporters who are eager to go inside and watch him. And now, hours after this rally here, this has turned into an area where people...
Empire, how are you? Thank you for coming and say hi.
What do we do now? There's still some people hanging out here waiting to leave the area. Just on this other end. end here, there's some cars that are still sort of leaving, trying to get out of this area. You can see there the line of cars, people trying to exit this area. That gives you some perspective of just how many people actually showed up to this rally. The parking lots are very full, and so you had people not only hanging around but still trying to leave this area now that it's been secured off and now that we've been escorted out with.
And Rachel, I know you've been to so many of these Trump rallies in the past. In fact, I even remember the two of us going to the same one at the same time in New Hampshire back in 2020. You've seen the security, you're familiar with these procedures, and I think one thing that we've heard from some of the witnesses there, it does not matter your political affiliation here. This is a sad day in this country as we still wait to get more information, especially some of those bystanders, at least one reportedly who lost their life. Rachel Scott for us, thank you so much. We do have a statement from President Biden here, and he writes that I have been briefed on the shooting at Donald Trump's rally in Pennsylvania. I'm grateful to hear that he's safe and doing well, praying for him and his family and for all of those at the rally as we await further information. Jill and I are grateful to the Secret Service for getting him to safety. There's no place for this kind of violence in America. We must unite as one nation to condemn it. A sentiment that we've been hearing from a number of officials on all sides of the aisle on this day and these remarkable events that have played out. Let's go back to Pierre Thomas, our Chief Justice Correspondent in Washington, who's been talking to his sources. Pierre,
I just
get
out of the work and everybody's talking about
is that they are
the shooting versus the President Trump
attempt.
I mean, for the election, right?
This is an all hands on deck moment. Period.
Oh my God! This is
law enforcement
this is sad.
This will
that
be
is really
treated
sad,
as an
guys.
assassination plot until it's not.
This needs to change.
Also gave an update saying that President Trump, former President Trump, was still at a medical facility as a few moments ago receiving treatment, but that he was doing fine. Again, we emphasize no life-threatening.
Congratulations, T1 doing 130.2. That is super fast.
The president was still at a medical facility.
At least until now, I get number second.
The FBI is also now going to engage in this investigation. Every effort will be put on identifying, understanding who the shooter was, this attempted shooter was, finding out more about that person's background to make sure that this is confined to a single individual. We just don't know yet. Law enforcement, again, converging now, trying to get additional information so that security can be surged for the upcoming conventions. Also, we are getting information that law enforcement will be briefed later in the evening about what took place here. But again, you have a former president of the United States.
81. Are you starting soft or no?
Soon to be nominated by his party.
Please, T1, starting soft. Please, T1, starting soft.
Attempting to apparently kill him.
T1, please,
that is the feeling
starting soft,
until they can prove that it's not the case. That is how law enforcement.
If it's not, it's fine. Just let me pass.
Pierre Thomas for us, thank you so much. I do want to
Jeffrey say can't wait for Tokyo. Yeah, it's true. It's gonna be funny or it's gonna be destroyed.
Up there, that is Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. That's where President Biden was spending the weekend. We're told that we're about 2 minutes out from the president speaking tonight. Of course, he sent out that statement earlier, and we know that the president has been briefed by his staff and by the Secret Service.
That's true,
We're also learning that there was a heightened alert across the country. We're getting reportable information from sources here in New York City saying that following this possible assassination attempt, security is being increased across New York City. They say out of an abundance of caution, the NYPD is increasing its presence across the city, including at
Good luck to everybody, okay? Good luck to everybody in this race.
Foley Square and City Hall. No specific threat connection to New York.
If I can defend the second, I'm happy with that. That's it.
The agencies in the federal government as the
T1 is a
situation
beast.
based on what we know now. I have tried to get a hold of Donald. He's with his doctors. Apparently he's doing well. I plan on talking to him shortly, I hope, when I get back to the telephone. Look, there's no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick. It's sick. It's one of the reasons why we have to unite this country. We cannot allow for this to be happening.
Exactly.
We cannot
agree.
Like this. We cannot condone this.
Yeah.
And I want to thank the Secret Service and all the agencies, including the state agencies, that have engaged in making sure that the people and we have more detail to come.
I hope the order is coming, man.
Maybe injured in the audience. I don't have all that detail. We'll make that available to you. I may be able to come back a little later tonight, but we'll put out a statement if I'm not able to, if it's not convenient for you all. But the bottom line is, The Trump rally was a rally that he should have been able to be conducted peacefully without any problem. But the idea that there's political violence or violence in America like this is just unheard of. It's just not appropriate. Everybody must condemn it. Everybody. I'll keep you informed, and if I'm able to speak to Donald, I'll let you know that as well. But so far, it appears he's doing well. Number one.
Nice.
Number two, that they're thoroughly investigating what happened to anyone else in the audience.
I want to see name. I want to be investigated. Everything he need to be in the light, transparency.
And I'm going back to my phone to speak with the federal agencies that are being put together again to give me an updated briefing. Has anything happened? They learned any more in the last couple hours. So thank you very much, and I hope I get to speak to them tonight.
Third position with the Honda.
If I do, okay?
Awesome shirt. Oh, no.
I don't know.
Marvel, Bobby, I have you in the church.
Opinion, but I don't have any
No,
facts.
no church. In the church. No church. Love you, my boy.
Was the security failing, Mr. President?
And thank you for my delivery for Luna. I appreciate your time, my US, for
released a statement earlier tonight, but coming out before the cameras right now on the microphone, saying that there is no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick. It's sick. And on that political violence, he said everyone must condemn it. President Biden also said that he made a few attempts to try to reach former President Donald Trump, but was not able to, but said that he would like to be able to speak with him at some point when he's able.
This is exactly what he needs, United States. Unity. Unity. He needs to be strong.
For people to condemn.
I know it's a lot of the division, right? Divided type of mindset that is completely nothing to do with aggression and violence. Like it's full as fuck the fucking country about that shit.
As we're getting information and these truly remarkable images that we saw on the screen as they played out.
He can be the unity for the United States. And this is horrible, man.
And it started in high spirits as many people were anticipating and awaiting his pick for a possible running mate that was expected in the next 48 hours. So all eyes were on this event to see if Trump would hint to who that person might be.
Starting in hard tire.
Minutes later, when we heard those popping sounds, we went back to Rachel Scott, who told us what happened as it occurred. You see the Secret Service there surrounding the former president, forming a human shield around him, then escorting him off the stage. And as the crowd started to realize that Trump was okay, there were cheers, and he pumped his fist in response before he was led away. Again, we're told that he was taken to a nearby medical center, that he is receiving treatment, but that he is doing okay, that he is fine. His family in a statement calling it a heinous act.
No, are you hard tire? Are you guys so well,
and few. We only know the very little that we've been able to get from witnesses and from the Secret Service. We've got our entire team on this. John Carl, our chief Washington correspondent, is in Milwaukee because that was supposed to be the scene of the week's major news in the Republican National Convention. And instead, John, everything is about to change after this incident.
This thing has sent shockwaves throughout the political world. I was on the floor of the convention speaking with the Republican Party chairman, Michael Whatley, when this news broke. Saw him wished away by an aide on the phone, trying to figure out what was happening. And obviously shockwaves not just here in Milwaukee, where the political world, at least the Republican part of the political world, is gathering for this convention that is set to kick off officially at 2 o'clock on Monday, but also over on the Democratic side. We are told that the Biden campaign has paused all outbound communications, and they are working to pull down all of their political ads, effectively putting this intensely fought, heavily funded, very negative presidential campaign, at least for the moment, on hold in the wake of this incident. And you heard, President Biden condemn what happened. I thought it was interesting to hear him refer a couple of times to President Trump, somebody he has clashed with as mightily as any two political figures in our history have clashed, calling him Donald and saying he tried to get a hold of Donald and he hopes to speak to him, and saying that we all have to condemn what happens. And that is what is happening. We are seeing statements from political leaders political spectrum, not just is an apparent or being investigated as an apparent political assassination attempt, but calling for calm.
Are you driving slow, or this guy adding hard tire, adding a master?
Certainly not like this, has no place in American politics. One of those briefed on this and putting out a statement is the Speaker of the House, third in line of presidential succession, Mike Johnson, who says he's been briefed by law enforcement and says this horrific act of political violence at a political campaign rally has no place.
Oh, what's up?
And I think quite movingly from a former congresswoman named Gabby Giffords, who herself was severely wounded in political violence at a campaign event of hers in Arizona. Gabby Giffords putting out a statement saying, political violence is terrifying. I know. I'm holding former President Trump and all those affected by today's indefensible act of violence in my heart. Political violence is un-American and never acceptable, never. A view that is being uniformly expressed across the political spectrum and obviously beyond the political world.
And obviously, John, something we also heard from the witnesses who were there tonight and witnessed this chaos and the bloodshed, asking for prayers not only for former President Trump but for the bystanders, or at least one who may have been killed in this incident. John, thank you. Stand by. We'll come back to you as the developments persist throughout the night. But I want to go back to Mary Bruce at the White House. Mary, just
I think it's going to be American podium, Bobby. 1, 2, 3.
Now that FBI personnel are on the scene in Butler, Pennsylvania, the FBI will work jointly with the U.S. Secret Service as the investigation moves forward. And Mary, I just wanted to pick up with you on something that John noted too about Biden reaching out, trying to speak with former President Donald Trump. These are two men who do not speak to each other. I mean, they hardly even acknowledge each other in that debate a couple of weeks ago. So the president trying to reach out, the former president trying to at least, give as much of a perception of unity in this moment of tragedy in America.
Yeah, and you heard with the president there essentially arguing that now is not a time for politics, that this is a moment where the country has to unite. You heard the president saying there is no place in America for this type of violence. And as John noted, yes, it is certainly unusual to hear President Biden refer to Donald Trump by his first name. And yet we know that he tried to reach out to him. We don't know why he wasn't able to get a hold of him, but the president says he's going to continue to try. And this, you can't understate how much it has completely and totally upended this campaign, this race, this moment that we are in America. We were just days away from the Republican National Convention. We have seen, of course, a ratcheting up of divisive rhetoric in this country. We were at a point where you were hearing, as Joe Biden has been facing a lot of doubts from those within his party about the future of his own candidacy in this race. He's been urged by others to take the fight to Donald Trump more forcefully, to outline more forcefully the case in this race. All of that now coming to a halt. The campaign announcing that they are trying to pull down. They are going to be pulling down their ads off of the airwaves. But this is a moment where instead of ramping up, you are having the campaign hit the pause button completely. Now, what will that mean? How will that change this race? Will it change the way the two parties talk about each other going forward? Will it actually bring the country together? All huge questions and things that remain to be seen in the coming days. And just one more thing, Whit. I do think it was interesting. The president there was asked if he thought this was an assassination attempt. He said, I have an opinion, but I don't have any facts. Echoing what I think many Americans are thinking right now.
Absolutely. Mary Bruce, thank you so much. I do want to bring in District Attorney Richard Goldinger from Butler County, Pennsylvania. Richard, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. We've been reporting this information that you gave to some of our team here at ABC News about the shooter being dead and at least one bystander, possibly a second, also killed. What more can you tell us about this incident?
Well, I'm sorry to be talking to you under these circumstances, but yeah, I can confirm that the shooter is dead, and we have one spectator who did pass away.
They go way fast, cabrón.
The second individual
oh my gosh.
Seen, is in what I would say serious condition. I don't know their condition at this point, but we do have at least 2 spectators that sustained injuries, or obviously the first one passed away from the
I do the 2 soft
Forgive me, just to confirm, so the shooter is dead, you noted that, but earlier we reported possibly 2 spectators were killed, so now you're saying, just to clarify, 1 was shot and killed, another one sustained serious injuries, their condition at this point unknown?
That is correct, yes.
Do we know anything about this shooter?
At this point, no.
Is it a man?
I don't even know if it's male or female, to be honest with you. So.
Okay, so we don't know if it was male or female. Was the shooter? Is it believed that the shooter was actually in the venue, or fired the shots from outside?
I can confirm the shooter was not within the venue. The shooter was on the roof of a building that was adjacent to the venue, and so they would not have had to go through the security process of entering the rally and be subject to the search and everything.
Forgive me, I was just getting some information in my ears as you were speaking. So the shooter not in the venue, on the roof adjacent to the venue. So is it believed then that some of these other shots that we heard witnesses describe, that was law enforcement returning fire? Was it law enforcement who took the shooter out?
That I can't confirm.
That's a yes?
No, I can't confirm that.
Okay, so it's not clear how the shooter died.
Correct. At this point, we don't know. I don't know. How about that? I don't know at this point.
Fair enough. I understand. And forgive me, I know it's a fluid situation and information is coming in piece by piece.
Extremely, yes.
Richard, just your take in general. This is obviously a tragic moment in this country. I mean, not only do we have this act of political violence, we have bystanders, people out there just exercising their right to support a candidate, potentially shot and killed. What are you feeling at this time?
It's terrible. First of all, I'm embarrassed for my community that this happened here. I am disgusted and sad that somebody actually lost their life as a result of this. And, unfortunately, it appears to be just almost, I don't want to say a microcosm, but the state of our country, where we are right now and how divided we are, and somebody would resort to something like this.
They have damage in the back. Jeffrey and Andre.
But potentially affect a presidential election. And it's really sad. We need to, I agree with President Biden, we need to come together. We need to unite because of this. And I hope that maybe, something bad like this happening, good can come of it after the fact.
Yes, let's all hope that could be the case, and perhaps this country could have a moment of unity in what has been a very divisive time, and only getting painful by the minute here as we get more details about what happened. I do want to ask you about the bystanders. Do we know any information about them, where they were seated during this event?
I don't have that information at this point. I'm going to guess that they were probably seated behind President Trump, based on the whole thing, but I don't know. I shouldn't speculate.
Understood. Again, Richard Goldinger, we truly appreciate you taking the time this evening, and we're wishing the very best. Our hearts go out to you and your entire community as you try to build back from this tragedy. Thank you again. I want to go to, let's go back to Martha Raddatz in Washington. Martha, I know that you've been talking to not only law enforcement sources, political sources, but also folks in the military who were describing what they heard with those gunshots. We got some more information from the district attorney there. The suspect who was shot and killed, and we're not sure how, we're careful to point that out, was on a rooftop adjacent to the venue. What does that tell you, and what's the reaction you're getting from your sources?
Well, it certainly was a ways away from President Trump, and that in the beginning when I started to people who are familiar with weapons and who heard that gunfire on the tape said they were certain it was probably a ways away from the actual venue outside the security zone, and it sounds like that has proven to be true. There were several shots you could hear, and they were very distinct. At least 2 or 3, possibly more shots, and we don't know yet whether we were hearing not just the shooter, but those who then took out the shooter. But when I look at this video, and we've all looked at it over and over, and you see President Trump get up and put that fist in the air. We've now heard from his family. We now have heard that former President Trump is okay. But this is an incredibly sobering moment for former President Trump, for his family, and for the country. There is always a possibility something could go wrong. He is surrounded by security, doing the best job.
They probably have for lab 13.
Things can happen.
At least something like that.
When he goes out there again, he is going to be thinking of this, whether he keeps that fist in the air, whether you can't keep him down. This is something that has got to be in the back of your mind. Back in 2016, just 4 days before the election back there, he was taken off the stage by Secret Service when someone shouted gun. There wasn't a gun. He was okay. Nothing happened. But even that, I mean, you can see that moment of fear in someone's eyes, and they have a right to be afraid in something like this. I also think with what we're going to have to see in the coming days, and we talk about this divided country, we talk about this heinous act, is who this shooter is, what the motive actually was, where they come from, why they did this. This will be pivotal in how the country reacts, how former President Trump's supporters act. This is something we really have to keep our eyes on in the coming days.
And not to mention the serious questions about security. I know you and many of us have been to these Trump rallies before, and you go through so much security to get inside the venue, and the metal detectors, and they check your bags and everything. There are prohibited items, things you cannot bring inside. But to get this information from the DA now that the suspect was on top of a roof adjacent to the venue, that raises serious questions about whether something of potential threat.
So is a sniper or what?
Well, I think, again,
suppose
you
this be a small
protect
gun.
Someone from everybody. There are ways to get to people. I think on the venue itself, obviously, and we've all been there, and they go through the magnetometer. But if you are a long way away and you have a weapon, I know certainly they have probably snipers positioned in certain places, but I've been to events too and think, oh wow, look at that building over there, someone could get up there. I hope they have somebody there. They are not in every single spot at every single rally, and that's what people take advantage of. I mean, I think the Secret Service would be the first to say we do our absolute best, we lock down what we can, but people keep trying, and they keep trying to get in. But we will learn more on that too. Any kind of investigation going forward, which will take weeks, months, probably years, how this happened.
Yes, this is just the very beginning. Martha Raddatz, thank you so much. I do want to go back to another witness here, Stephen Lasko, who was at the Trump rally. Stephen, if you can hear me, I understand you were only about 100 feet away from the former president. Describe what you saw and what you heard.
About 100 feet away from him, could see his face. He was right there talking, having a good time. And, you heard one shot, two shot. It sounded like, bang, nothing crazy. And then you heard maybe 3 or 4 more. And that's when everyone got quiet, started panicking. Trump dropped right to the floor. I guess Secret Service jumped on top of him and shielded him. But, as soon as everyone in the crowd...
He won his feet position already.
My buddies
He's going to be passing me like nothing.
Piled on top of me.
Wow.
And we had no idea what was going on. You're in total shock. You're shook, and you can't feel your legs. But we were trying to decide if we wanted to get up and run, and we had really no idea what to do. And next thing you know, you see bullets, or you hear bullets flying, and I believe a bullet hit the hydraulic lift that was holding up the speakers, and that thing almost collapsed. There was hydraulic fluid and water spitting everywhere all over the crowd. And then before you know it, everyone just gets up and starts running. But Trump
Stephen, oh, forgive me. I'm sorry. There's a little bit of a delay, but on that note about everybody getting up and running, we're actually showing video that you shot on your cell phone. And this is the moment with people running out of the venue. Describe what that was like, and when were you actually able to get out?
It it was pretty stressful. You know, I'm looking around trying to make sure all my buddies who came with me were with me. And, you know, it took probably a good 10 minutes to get out of there, to get out of the whole area. And, you know, before you know it, there's ATVs and UTVs flying and ambulances and all that kind of stuff. And we're trying to figure out how to get out of there and get home. You know, we made it. And when we walked out to the road, they had, you know, police blocking everything off. And we actually found out where the building was that the shooter was shooting from. They had it all taped off. I guess it was like an agricultural warehouse, something like that.
Nothing one is for, cabrón.
You know, it was pretty scary. It's like you're in the movies.
Stephen, forgive me again. I'm sorry. There's a little bit of a delay with the connection, but did you say that you were able to see the building that the shooter was allegedly perched on top of here? You said it was taped off by law enforcement. What did it look like?
It was like a kind of like an airplane hangar, maybe. You know, like a warehouse for agricultural equipment, I guess. ARC, AGC, something like that on the side. But once we were out, maybe 30, 40 minutes after, you know, they were taping it off, investigating it. They had the dogs going and all that stuff. You know, there was traffic jams everywhere. It was kind of hard to...
How far away was that area from where the former president was standing?
Maybe 300, 400 yards. Maybe less, honestly.
And Stephen, when you hear that people who were there in the crowd with you, other bystanders, at least one, maybe more, were killed, how does that make you feel?
Honestly, still kind of numb to it. You know, it's hard to process all this. You know, your heart rate is through the roof. But, you know, best wishes for their family. And, you know, they were supporting the country that they love. And in the meantime, it's definitely sad. And, you know, it's heartbreaking, honestly.
And Stephen, we've been hearing from people on both sides of the aisle, Republicans, Democrats, you know, an independent candidate, RFK Jr., and all with the same sentiment, condemning political violence, saying there's no place in this country for something like this. And I just wonder, from your perspective too, you're out there, you're exercising your right to support a candidate. You know, what message do you have for people out there? Because the country is at this political boiling point. There's so much division and anger and hatred right now from one side and the other. What would you like to tell people?
You know, at the end of the day, whether you're on the left, the right, the center, or you don't believe in politics at all, we all still put our pants on in the morning. We all breathe the air and go to work, you know, and a lot of these issues, in 10 years, no one even thinks about them or cares about them. So we're all people at the end of the day, and, you know, it's not worth taking someone's life over political beliefs or whatever. It's just senseless.
Well, Stephen, I think many people would agree with those words. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for sharing that video, and we're so glad and thankful that you and the people you were there with are doing okay. Thanks again.
Of course, and as Kelly Clarkson says, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Well, let's hope that's what happens in this country from here forward. The country definitely needs a moment of healing as we work closer and closer to Election Day. Stephen, thank you again. Let's go back to Rachel Scott. I believe she's still there in Pennsylvania. She was at this event, and Rachel, you've been speaking with witnesses. And who are you with right now?
Yeah, I'm with a woman named Erin. You were in the very first row in the middle seat, you told me. What did you see? What did you witness?
I was in the first row, and I was in the middle. I was directly in front of President Trump. So I saw him come on the stage, and it was maybe about 3 or 4 minutes. Everybody, all the photographers saw him come in. They all cleared away. He started speaking, and then we heard pound, pound, pop, pop, pop. In everybody's mind, it was like 4th of July. Somebody must have been still doing firecrackers. Then I saw the 4 Secret Service jump up and immediately push him to the ground. Then the news people that were around him, they all fell to the ground. There was 4 of them down there, and then we all stood up. None of us moved. We wanted to protect President Trump. Sorry, helicopter's landing. Then I saw the gentlemen who wear the guns in the black. They came on and they said, okay, clear right, clear left. On 3, we're going to lift them. So they lifted President Trump up, and he said,
scene where we are all standing right now. We are just yards away from where this rally was taking place. We're seeing a helicopter touchdown. We've obviously seen more and more police presence in the last hour following these events that occurred. And there are still supporters that are still trying to leave this area. You are one of them. There were hundreds of people here. And so the parking lots were very full. There was a line to get out. And so there's a little bit of a traffic jam also as well. So you described those moments. You heard the pop, pop, pop. Everyone went down for cover. How are you feeling? How are you processing this?
Well, everybody in the first row, nobody went down to the ground. They all stood up. They wanted to protect the president. All we were concerned about was him. And then kind of the Secret Service, when he got up and got into the vehicle, they told us to sit and stay seated because there was things going on. And from what I hear, there's possibly 2 shooters. There's a gentleman here that has a picture of one of the shooters that was rolled off of a building. He was shot by the sharpshooters that were behind Trump. And I saw a gentleman leave from the left stands, and he had red blood all down his shirt. He wasn't hit, but I think he was around somebody who was. So just picking up little bits of things. We're all in shock because we never expected this. I mean, it's a beautiful rally, a beautiful night. I don't know. If no one's ever been to a Trump rally, it's very congenial. People look out for each other. It just seems like you don't see any fights and you don't see any animosity and you don't see too much. They're all pretty much focused on the president. And then with this to happen, it's just stressful. It's just sad. Very sad.
This is an open fairground where we are standing here. It was a very hot day. People were coming in with their water bottles. As you said, there was this sense of sort of joy, excitement to see the former president. All of this unfolded within minutes of him taking the stage.
I don't think it was 3 to 4 minutes, I would say. He hardly got a chance to do his, waving at everybody and welcome and maybe a couple words on the teleprompter. But some people tell me that they think one of the shots hit the teleprompter and that could have made him with the cheek.
Interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of unconfirmed reports still out there. We're also sorting through this.
Leave the stage on his own. He walked down the steps. I saw that. And then he put his right hand up and fist up and said, "Stay strong, everyone." And he kind of turned like he would, like he was exiting. He was making sure that all those people like us that were standing up knew that he was okay.
Well, we so appreciate you taking the time. And I know you're waiting to clear out from this area as well.
Just praying for our president. That's how everybody is here. So thank you.
We're so happy that you are safe. Please get home safe. Again, that is just one of the many witnesses that we've been talking to here that are leaving these fairgrounds now after this incident occurred. As you can tell, still a little shaken up there, still processing what happened, replaying those events in our minds for what we all heard, that sound of the pop, 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 people rushing, taking cover, seeing the former president being rushed off the stage, and then ultimately all of us being rushed out of this area. Many members that were inside, many of the Trump supporters are still waiting to leave here with.
Yeah, you get the sense as we've been talking to them one after another, many still in shock. I mean, how do you process such a thing, right? Something you don't expect like this act of violence. Rachel Scott Forrest, once again, thank you so much. I do want to bring in John David Longo, the mayor of Slippery Rock, who was with former President Trump right before the rally. Mayor, if you can hear me, where were you when the shots rang out?
I was just left in the stage, so to the right of the president. I was got low there, right on the area when the shots rang out, and still trying to piece that together. I heard those sounds, and immediately I thought I knew what I heard, but I didn't want to believe it. And I thought for sure it might have been a firecracker or a gag, but by the time I heard the second one, my ears recognized the sound, and it's just a very sad situation to be in. I put my wife down to the ground and covered her up, and everybody around us, making sure that everybody was low to the ground and staying still and out of the way so that our law enforcement officers and Secret Service could understand the situation while I also was scanning, because we weren't quite sure exactly at that time where the fire was coming from.
And forgive me, Mayor, I couldn't hear you for a second. Did you say that as you were hearing the gunshots and everybody dove to the ground, that you dove down and tried to cover up your wife?
live. I tried to cover up my pregnant wife. We just found out we were expecting a few weeks ago when I came here with her and my family today to come and bring them to hear President Trump speak. And my wife and I were blessed enough to be able to meet the president 15 to 20 minutes before he took the stage and had a pleasant conversation with him, and it was all smiles. And of course, that was stolen from us when this maniac decided to do what he did. And unfortunately, somebody in the bleachers right behind us was murdered by this monster.
And how does, what's your reaction to that, to learn that at least one person lost their life today, who was just there at the same rally that you were attending?
It's sad does not describe, what that feeling is. This individual came here likely with a smile on their face, looking for hope and inspiration, looking to hear from President Trump in a place that is deep in the territory of blood-red Trump country, and he did not get to leave here today with his life. His loved ones are probably wondering just how it is that something like this could have been possible.
Mayor John David Longo from Slippery Rock, thank you so much for your time, and we're thankful that you and your family are okay.
Oh, do you want to do a 3.5? Damn it.
Let's
fly with the AMG.
Paul Eckloff, former Secret Service for both former President Trump and for Obama. Paul, talk to me about this investigation as it stands now. Obviously, we've had reports that the Secret Service, other law enforcement agencies are treating this as an attempted assassination unless they hear otherwise. How is an investigation like this pursued from here on?
Yes, sir. These cases are exactly what the Secret Service trains day in and day out for. Unfortunately, it puts into sharp focus that the Secret Service as we know it today exists due to a history of political violence in this country, and they work tirelessly every day to prevent anything but the peaceful transfer of power. In this case, the Secret Service prepares for these contingencies by having agents in place for crime scene prevention, and they perform what's known as an interim federal presence before the FBI conducts the actual investigation on an assassination attempt.
Paul, thank you so much. Forgive me. Stand by for a moment because we're just getting new information right now. I want to go back to John Carl in Milwaukee. John, you're learning more from Trump himself.
From Donald Trump, I'm going to read it to you in its entirety. He says, I want to thank the United States Secret Service and all of law enforcement for their rapid response on the shooting that just took place in Butler, Pennsylvania. Most importantly, I want to extend my condolences to the family of the person at the rally who was killed and also to the family of another person that was badly injured. It is incredible that such an act can take place in our country. Nothing is known. This is Donald Trump saying nothing is known at the time about the shooter who is now dead. And here's key new information in this statement from Donald Trump. I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear. I knew immediately that something was wrong in that I heard a whizzing sound, shots, and immediately felt the bullet ripping through the skin. Much bleeding took place, so I realized what was happening, and then he ends it, God bless America. So a statement from Donald Trump that he has posted on social media saying that he was shot in the right ear by one of the bullets as they went by, much bleeding, and expressing his condolences to somebody at the rally who was killed, another person that was injured. That statement from Donald Trump.
And now, John, as you've been with us for hours now, it's the puzzle pieces are starting to come together, at least in terms of the event today and what happened. You know, we don't have the who and the why yet, but we're starting to get the how and how this all played out tonight, because we saw earlier those images of the former president with the blood trickling down the right side of his face. We saw him flinching as he was speaking when the shots first rang out, and then reaching for his right ear, and then now that confirmation from the former president himself. And John, I know that politics isn't really at the center of the conversation in this moment, but I can't help but just point out that you're standing in Milwaukee, at the headquarters of what is supposed to be the Republican National Convention this week, major events that were supposed to take place. How do you expect that not only the Trump campaign, but the Biden campaign will then respond to all of this? What do the next few days and weeks look like on the campaign trail?
I mean, what we're seeing immediately is a pause to the political to this very heightened stage of this campaign. The Biden campaign has said that they have they've closed off all outbound communication. They're attempting to take down their television advertising across the country right now. We've seen statements come in from across the political spectrum. Former presidents, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, the current president, Joe Biden, who we've heard from both in a statement and in a live statement to the country, condemning what has happened, offering their well wishes, prayers for Donald Trump and for those who were at his rally. We're seeing this from people who are Trump's allies, from those who are adamantly opposed to him. But there's something else we're seeing that I have to say. We're already seeing some very divisive rhetoric in an attempt to politicize what has been roundly condemned by everybody. You have seen some of the president's allies suggest that Joe Biden himself bears responsibility because of the rhetoric that we've seen in this campaign. We saw a statement to that extent coming from J.D. Vance, one of those who's waiting right now to find out if he's going to be Donald Trump's running mate. We've seen a member of Congress
No, cabrón,
say
really?
much the same, except directly pinning the blame on President Biden. So for now, across the political spectrum,
I just want to have the art.
universal condemnation, but the early indications are that that's just not going to last very long. It could get ugly very soon. There should be a moment where the country has a wake-up call that the hateful rhetoric that we have seen across the political spectrum is simply dangerous. We know death threats have become a matter of due course for political figures in this campaign. Even before this campaign, this should be a time for people to say it's time to step back, make it clear that violence has absolutely no place in American politics. But I think what you're also going to see is, while this campaign is, for the moment, in a state of shock and pause, it's a campaign that seems like it is very well going to come back with a vengeance.
And on that point, this is going to be a huge test.
Yeah, this is
no
at
matter how
32.
you slice it in
That's
this country.
bad.
Is this going to be a moment of unity at some point? Or is this a moment when people just flee back to their tribal corners, and start throwing rocks at each other again? And that is going to be a major test for this country to wait and see what happens in the days to come. John Carl for us, thank you so much for that. I do want to bring also on that note, we have Rick Klein, our political director for ABC News, and our DC bureau chief joining us right now on camera. And Rick, pick up on some of these notes that we're getting from John Carl and just some of the reaction that you're getting tonight.
Yeah, just in the immediate term, wait, I'm just a couple hundred yards away from the forum where this convention was set to go.
Okay, I'm driving with a little poop in my pants.
Atmosphere that was here.
Let's go and do this better. I cannot write another 32.
All that, needless to say, is gone. There are social events that have been canceled for tonight. No convention business as of now has been impacted. No changes to the convention that's set to start on Monday. But it has definitely changed the mood, the tone, the tenor of the campaign. The news from the Biden campaign that they have pulled all of their advertising and paused their campaign communication. And as John referenced, some very ugly things that are being said just in terms of statements right now. A lot of accusations going about and a lot of heated rhetoric even at this time that has kind of chilled politics overall.
Rick, let me ask you this, because obviously law enforcement across the country, they're going to be on heightened alert. There's going to be more security at all of these events. And I know you're there in Milwaukee. All the infrastructure is in place. What are the chances they cancel this event altogether, the convention? Is that a possibility? I mean, they have a lot to get in line within the next 24 plus hours.
I've been told that that's not under consideration right now, that the communications from the Trump campaign and from the host committee of the convention are all around planning to go ahead. But of course, things are now minute by minute and hour by hour, and it's very possible that things change. The security around a convention is intense. As you know, it is very, very difficult to get anywhere near an arena. There are multiple checkpoints, metal detectors. It's much harder than just going through airport security. There are a lot of layers of security, but then again, there's a lot of layers of security at events for presidential candidates, and the lapse or apparent lapse that occurred in Pennsylvania today is definitely going to impact the way that things are planned here. And if it were to go ahead, I would predict that Milwaukee's going to be something of a fortress. It's going to be very difficult to go or do anywhere, and everyone will be on an extra set of alerts, maybe rightfully so. I also think that people are going to be looking at this event in a much different light. I think the images and the words coming out from the former president
take it easy, you're going to be dying.
Standing strong at this moment are powerful ones. I've heard from a couple of delegates already who just said they've been impressed by the way that Trump and his team have handled this. I think this changes the nature of a convention, even though the convention itself, as of now, is set to start in less than 48 hours.
Rick Klein, thank you so much. Let's go back to Aaron Katursky, our senior investigative correspondent. Aaron, you're getting more information, details about the shooting itself.
Secret Service just a moment ago put out a statement saying that during the Trump campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, at approximately 6:15 p.m. Eastern Time, a suspected shooter fired multiple shots toward the stage from an elevated position outside of the rally venue. The Secret Service personnel neutralized the shooter, who is now deceased. The Secret Service, the statement says, quickly responded with protective measures, and former President Trump is safe. One spectator was killed, 2 spectators were critically injured, and the incident is under investigation. That's an official statement from the U.S. Secret Service. Law enforcement sources would tell ABC News the shooter was at a distance of 200 to 300 yards away in an elevated position. He was on a rooftop adjacent to the venue, and those same law enforcement sources are telling ABC News he fired as many as 8 rounds from an AR-15 style rifle.
And Aaron, this information that you bring us also lines up with what we've been hearing from witnesses. Many of those who were fleeing the venue itself, talking about a separate location, a rooftop that was then taped off with caution tape. The law enforcement dogs were searching the area. So again, as we've been on the air now for a number of hours, it's sort of this drip, drip, drip of information. But I wanted to pick up, Aaron, with a question that I was thinking about when Rick Klein was talking there from Milwaukee. Because even though, and you know this because you've done so much reporting about the heightened threat level across this country and the warnings that law enforcement have had about the threat of political violence, in this situation where they're treating it as a potential assassination attempt, law enforcement across the country must just be scrambling to sort of change their protocols and procedures to try to deal with any sort of massive event, especially as it pertains to any political venue.
Well, the political venues are usually come upon quite quickly. The campaigns will choose them. The Secret Service will do some kind of a security assessment and do what they think they need to do to keep the protectee, in this case, former President Trump, safe. Now, they undoubtedly would have accounted for nearby rooftops. We'll wait to see whether this individual, this shooter who is now dead, was in position beforehand, or whether may have tried to access the rooftop while in full view of others, and how police and the Secret Service may have reacted to that. But this is certainly going to have an impact on how police and the Secret Service go about securing these venues in the future, especially at a time when the threat environment in the country is so complicated, all the more so by the rather heated political environment we're in now, just months before the next presidential election.
And Aaron, another thing that you've reported on in the past, and I think it's worth noting here, because we don't know the motive behind this attack.
On the 29, I need to remember.
So that information is still to come. But regardless of whether that specific threat was neutralized, right, if it was one shooter or if there are other people who could have been involved, regardless of that fact, Aaron, you often talk about the threat of a lone wolf who could be inspired by an event. And so law enforcement has to be looking at this and also saying, okay, well, it's one thing to foil a potential plot. It's another thing if you've got somebody with a grudge who's motivated by what they saw on TV.
And I think any law enforcement official will tell you those are notoriously difficult to detect and to stop, because there is almost no warning. And how many of these security bulletins, intelligence bulletins do we see where a lone actor is identified as the most significant threat, somebody who is willing to use violence, and in this case we believe an AR-15 style rifle, and willing to do so without any apparent warning. So right now the authorities no doubt know who the shooter is. They've undoubtedly identified the person by now and are going through social media, talking to witnesses, acquaintances, relatives, friends, anyone they can find to give them a sense of what the motive might have been. But the stark reality is that a a lone actor who is willing to use a gun is very, very difficult to detect and to stop.
Aaron Katursky, thank you so much. As we come up on the top of the hour here at 9 p.m. in the East, I'm Wick Johnson in New York, and if you're just joining us, we're following all of these major developments after the shooting at a campaign rally. Former President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, was slightly wounded in the right ear, but we're told by his campaign, by his family, that he's doing fine. Authorities say the shots were fired from a rooftop adjacent to the venue, some 200 to 300 yards away. 8 rounds fired from an AR-style rifle. That information just reported by our Aaron Katursky. And the shooter was neutralized by the Secret Service. The shooter was killed. Authorities say a second person, a bystander, is also dead. Also getting reports that another spectator may have been critically injured. The incident is being investigated now as a possible assassination attempt. The former president's son, Don Jr., says his father is under observation at the hospital and in good spirits. President Biden tonight coming before the cameras, condemning the incident, saying there's no place in this country for violence. The former president himself also releasing a statement moments ago, thanking the Secret Service and law enforcement for their rapid response, describing the incident, saying he heard a whizzing sound and shots. And President Biden, as we also noted, they're coming before the cameras. He was condemning the violence, saying all federal agencies are now engaged. He also tried to reach out to the former president personally to speak with him tonight. The incident all playing out before the cameras. The horrific moment here, the loud noises popping, the former president appearing to grab his right ear in that moment. Secret Service agents then rushing the stage, protecting him with their bodies like a human shield. Those anxious moments as everyone was waiting to see if Trump was okay.
Yeah, oh. Second place probably.
This is the shocking moment. Chaos erupted
Not bad.
in Donald Trump's rally in Butler, Pennsylvania.
If you want to really see something that's take a look at what happened.
You can hear several pops and see the former president grabbing his ear, ducking for cover behind the podium. Secret Service agents rushing the stage, surrounding Trump, shielding him, taking him down to the ground. The screaming crowd looking on in horror. A short time later, agents carefully lifting the former president up.
I got you, sir. I got you, sir. Let me get my shoes, sir.
Blood clearly seen on his face, Trump pumping his fist. Agents whisking the former president off the stage, down the stairs, to a waiting armored SUV, rushing him to a local medical center.
We heard what we appeared to be gunfire coming. The former president was rushed off the stage right now. With Secret Service, he's being escorted into his vehicle. This was a chaotic moment that just played out right here in Pennsylvania. People running and rushing to the ground as they heard those apparent shots fired.
Tonight, the Trump campaign releasing a statement saying the former president is fine and being checked out at a local medical facility.
Just hours ago, this area was lined with Trump supporters. They entered that tent right there to be screened by Secret Service, going through metal detectors, their belongings tested. Now, this is the space where you have Trump supporters that are leaving panicked and confused as Secret Service agents rush.
21 with 13 seconds in front, baby.
Tonight, the crowd still in disbelief.
Tell me what you saw and what you heard. You said that you heard the popping sounds and you got down.
Sounds. At first you think like maybe firecrackers, but it continued, and then somebody yelled, "Get down!" We got down.
And it's still
We
being
got down, and we
46.
huddled, and we started praying.
Tonight, local officials telling
What?
ABC News those sounds were in fact gunshots. Live rounds fired from outside the security perimeter. This is being investigated
Yesterday,
as an
iRacing,
attempted
and I have
assassination. And tonight, the local district attorney telling ABC
45.5.
News at least one person is dead and the shooter is dead as well.
Are you riding slow today?
Addressing the nation.
Jeffrey, no, with the other 4GT getting in number 7 position, unfortunately.
Apparently, he's doing well.
Wow. Crazy. Mr. Jeffrey. Iceman is doing well too. T146.07, and they do really good laps covering like almost 30s every lap. I just do this for the year. I'm gonna be doing again. Just for fun. There's no point in here. The point is just nothing, just exhibition. He passed the track and nobody remember the points. It's nothing. Go again. I like it. I like this track. Go race, congratulations. ¿Dónde está? Go race and congratulations. ¿Dónde está congratulations? Jeffy buena gente, Y este también. Ay, no sé. Damn, bro, I'm 13 seconds. Bro, 13 seconds behind. You're talking about almost a lap. That's a lot. I don't know what happened with Jeffrey. Jeffrey, ¿qué pasó? Se nos fue el otro 4GT. And they do it well. They're doing fast. I don't know what happened in there. D48 is fast as well. I don't know what happened. Horrible is fast. No, I don't know what happened. Elio Ogura is supposed to be with us, and damn, Jen is fast as well. You want to get all the point. 268, not bad. I get it. Oh, 256. This is for me. Third slot is not horrible. I was coming. Yeah, bro. Mira. The T1, I mean, Iceman, he asked to T1, your second stint was all Teddy's? Probably. For most part. Yeah, for most part, you see? There are Beroni. The insane stint. They do it really well. See, I don't know how to undo that. Yeah, give baby. ENG power. I go again just because I wanted the DR. Just for Cabron, just for that. Absolutely for that, because daily race B for me this week is killing me. All my DR destroying in seconds. How much I need weight? 36. Yeah, chapabi. It's done, baby. It's done. Thank you for everything. Have a blessed rest of the night. This is your friend Mr.Plakaplum. Just a quick stream. I don't really want to do more stream. I feel a little tired, but I'm gonna be race again in the Manufacter just for fun and make some DR. See you later, Corillo Matador.